Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special online edition of the Fantasia International Film Festival and to the online Q&A for SANZARU. We're very happy today to have with us the film's producer, Alyssa Polk, and the film's director and writer, Magnus. Welcome to the webinar.
Thanks for having us.
The way it'll work for the audience is feel free to drop questions below in the Q&A section, not the chat, the Q&A, and we'll get the conversation going, and then eventually I'll take the audience's questions. So while we're talking, feel free to drop the questions and so on. So thank you for being here, the audience, and thank you for being here, both of you. That's yeah. I want to kick things off. I'm interested in the premise of the film, wherein a Filipina helper, a Filipina nurse, arrives in this remote Texan town to take care of a family with pretty ugly secrets. How did this element of a sort of stranger in a strange land come about, which I find so sort of potent, right? She's in a dominantly white environment. But she also has to sort of inherit all of this sort of trauma that she didn't necessarily ask for. How did this construction come to be?
Well, I mean, it started with the Gothic, because that's just a genre that I've always been attracted to. So I think in some ways the idea always had its roots in Gothic fiction. And that is often an outsider coming in, a stranger in a strange land, like you said. So I think that that's where it really started in my mind, the seeds of it were there. And then I think I started forming the story at a time when my family was going through a couple deaths simultaneously. And with those deaths, we had home health aides living in the house with us, and I think it was seeing that relationship that developed between the people that were kind of experiencing one of the most intimate things you can experience with another person, their death. And then like between them and the family, that was that, and their own family, and they're often, migrant workers, economic migrants from other countries in our experience here in America. And yeah, so I think it kind of was all those things were sort of swirling around when the seeds of the story, were rooted.
I mean, of course, the Reagans also aren't without their struggle. I mean, Clem, in a way, in the movie comes to embody this sort of residual trauma of the family, and also this fact that he's been returned from Afghanistan, for example. I think there's something in a way rather sort of hopeless in the way that this American family is represented. Of course, like Tina's dementia is its own kind of horror. Yeah, why this sort of cul-de-sac? Why this sort of hopelessness to the to the family?
Have you read the news lately?
I mean, but I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear you talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely from very early on, kind of the foundations of the idea, was how do you get past generational trauma, and I think for me, the vehicle of the character that's able to kind of see past it by admitting it, talking about it, addressing it, is Evelyn, and with her son Amos, and and with the help of kind of her spirit mother, her literal mother, who's a spirit. And I think that they're able to get past it, and it's the Regan family, who in this story I think kind of just happened to be American, but they're the family that decide to just keep it suppressed. And I think in that way they end up just trapped. They stay trapped in the house, I mean, in the most like simple, basic metaphor that
Yeah.
one can think of. But again, that goes back to the Gothic, right? Like it's the, you know, the house is this kind of Freudian, you know, metaphor for the brain in some ways,
Hmm.
you know, and also kind of the collective brain
Hmm.
too, the social brain within the family. So, and you know, even in, you know, in our story we have the attic and we have
Yeah.
the garage. You know, it's very, it's really simple in a lot of ways. It's straightforward.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of like those, you know, I think those metaphors are important when you're talking about trauma and families and psychology, because I think it's just the way we've learned to talk about them. So I think that's why I latched on to that. And but I think you're right. I mean, I think for the Reagans, they are not able to break free of their
Hmm.
past, and therefore they're trapped forever.
Hmm. I mean, that's to me is one of the most sort of interesting constructs in the film, or the sort of structural aspects of the film, is that you have this encounter between two, not only two families, which, as you say, is sort of, this idea of a stranger in a strange land is a classical sort of trope. But I think what I hadn't seen done before is this idea of a dialogue between ghosts, or
Yeah,
an encounter between hauntings, which, upon first watch, even sort of took me a while to figure out,
yeah,
because I think you go into the film also with this sort of expectation of this haunting presence, right? And then when you sort of realize that there's two, I think it becomes really interesting. How did you, I mean, for one thing, like, how did you sort of get interested in that part of sort of Filipino folklore, but also how did you stumble upon that idea of having these two spirits very much dialogue, or at least battle it out on top of?
well, it was always important to me that the spirits had their own kind of characters. I mean, and again, that kind of goes back to the Gothic. Like if you look at, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Turn of the Screw or something like that, and you have you know, these ghosts that are haunting and they're trapped because of their, you know, trauma or whatever, whether they're star-crossed lovers or, you know, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty common trope again. But it was important to me that it wasn't just some sort of um, pointless haunting. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That like
Yeah, yeah.
that the ghosts themselves had characters and they had duties. And then I think one of the big influences on me, I mean, besides the beginning of It's a Wonderful Life, when when God is talking to the angel in the sky, and it's just these two, it's just like the starry, like it's just the Milky Way, and the
Yeah.
stars are just kind of like lighting up to their voices. Besides that, it was Lincoln in the Bardo, that George Saunders book, that and just this idea of the Bardo in
Mm.
general, of like kind of a halfway place where souls go before they move on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if in Buddhism it would be to reincarnate, but to me it wasn't necessarily important like where they ended up going, but it was that they were
Right.
kind of in this middle space, and that they had their own tasks and their own pasts. And you know, and for Evelyn's mother, you know, who never really has a name, but like, you know, she's sort of the good ghost, if you will. You know, she kind of
Yeah.
is there to help her daughter and her grandson through this time. um, and in some ways she's able to break through. You know, she's kind of actually a surrogate for the audience, because she shows up and is kind of like, wait, where am I?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
am I here, you know? So she has to figure out, so she's kind of like, her process of figuring out where she is in this purgatory, or this, you know, spirit world, is the same as the audience is trying to figure out who these voices and these lights are talking. But I didn't I also just didn't want like a typical depiction of ghosts, like visual depiction of ghosts, because I don't know, I found it more interesting to try something different, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, that was my next
simple.
question, actually. I think one of the stronger elements of the film is its visual, it's sort of the way you handle the supernatural visually. It's visuals. I particularly love the sort of, uh, it reminded me of like post tenebras lux kind of
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
silhouette situation. But the cockatiel too is really fun,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's really sort of this nice haunting, the farm animals and so on. Can you talk about a bit about the visualization of the film and how you came to?
Yeah,
the
I mean
style and to the story.
specifically, yeah, I mean specifically the when it comes to the visualizations of the supernatural, I wanted to do kind of like a little bit like I mean, I guess when I think of ghosts and the supernatural, I think of them as whether or not you consider it real, it's
Mhm.
still psychological. So, and it's metaphysical. So it's going to be different for everybody. I guess
Mhm.
that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know, who knows, but I'm not an expert by any means, but that makes sense to me that it would be that each person has their own experience when it comes to supernatural things,
Yeah, yeah.
or sightings, whether it's visual or audio, or you feel it in your body, or you smell something. That's another common thing that people talk about, is smells. So we can only do so much of that because it's a film.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to approach it like that for sure. That it was that each person had a little bit of a difference, and then I also felt like, because to me there is no way to show what a real ghost looks like. I always feel like when I see it in films, it feels just extra fake to me, because it feels like they're trying to make it look real. So then it just becomes a cliche, or like a
Mm.
stock idea of it's the same with aliens, right? It's like it just becomes kind of like the same things get played over and over and over again, but we don't, but what are they really based on? They're just based on other imaginary
Right.
fictions, right? Because we just don't know what they would look like, or what they do look like, if wherever you're coming from. So I guess for me it was important. I actually wanted to play with this idea of kind of alienating the audience a little bit and being like, look, we know it's fake, right? Like it's a movie, and what does that look like when it's more of like maybe a metaphorical manifestation, and just like it's visual, it's aesthetic. So I just like
Yeah.
kind of picked what I thought looked cool, and kind of for my purposes, was got ideas. It was about ideas, and got ideas across. So yeah, I think the alienation of the audience was actually, was intentional. And I think
Mhm.
for some people, and for some people that just doesn't work, because they're like, why
Yeah.
isn't it a white wispy ghost, with like high special effects, that really good CGI. And but like to me this was a more interesting way to explore that.
Maybe a question for both of you. How did you find Aina Dumlao? I think she's so remarkable,
She's
and
great.
I'd love to hear also about what she brought to the film, which I assume is quite a bit, you know.
A
Um,
lot beyond her amazing performance. I mean, she came on and eventually became a producer as
mm,
well, because she found so much in the character to relate to with her own experience that just really connected her to Evelyn.
yeah,
And I think from that point on, she really just like jumped in the deep end with us and was ready to bring that Filipino insight and these little things like what would you make for dinner if you wanted to do like a really traditional like meal. And she was talking about tomato and tuna, and it was like, okay, let's do it. And she helped us find a lot of the additional actors that we use, so the voices for her sister and
yeah,
for her mother. And she helped us do a lot of ADR. She came in on the back end and did a ton of technical stuff with her husband. And she was amazing. We found her. It was weird. We kind of found each other, right? As
Yeah,
I
we found each
recall,
other.
that
Yeah.
because she submitted to us, and we had done some research and found her, and it was kind of like the
Yeah.
same day we kind of like contacted each other, like simultaneously. And she came in, and I remember she had come for the audition. She had just come from like an all-night
An
shoot.
all-night shoot.
Remember?
Yeah, she hadn't slept in
She
like
hadn't slept yet,
48
and
hours.
she was.
Yeah.
This character of Evelyn is by the end of it very bedraggled and has been
yeah.
through it by the end. So maybe that was to her advantage, but she came in and just knocked it out of the park. And from the beginning, I think right off the bat we were like pretty much set on her,
Well,
and then everybody kind of came to we formed the whole kind of cast really around her, because she was our number one, and brought her in, and she kind of just became our rock in the middle there.
Nice.
And she's great. She's around town. She does some stuff. She's also a filmmaker in her own right. Directed and starred in something last year called Daiwa. She's great, and she's
just a true collaborator. I mean, she just really collaborated with us on so many levels, because she's like Alyssa said, she's a filmmaker herself. So like on set, she was like one of the crew. She didn't, it was like, she's so talented, but she just really fit right in, and everyone just got along with everyone amazingly.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And so I presume you shot the film in Texas?
Yes, we did.
I'd be interested to hearing a bit about the production side of it. I assume, it was fairly small budget production. This is not your first film as a production company, but I believe it might be your first feature.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did that go?
It was a journey. It was amazing. And we got feet on the ground in Texas. I think it was 2 weeks after Hurricane Harvey had just come through.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, we were kind of stepping into this region of Texas that had been hit pretty hard by the hurricane. And, just kind of found ourselves in this, I wouldn't say it was like a disaster zone, but definitely this community that was kind of, trying to kind of figure out where to go next. And the community just embraced us from the beginning. Our producer, Anthony Pedoni, is from Victoria, was the first one to kind of, turn us on to the town and what it had to offer. And we got on the ground. We, through Facebook, were able to find our amazing haunted house, which a neighbor let us know, like, oh, so-and-so just moved out of that house, like contact this person. And, we were able to kind of catch them. We moved in, we lived in the house through production. We caught them. They were about to do a full gutted remodel on the house.
That was my question. Did it come furnished like that?
No, we furnished it.
Right.
But the wallpaper, the motorized chair that goes up and down, all the carpeting from everywhere was all there, and that very 1970s like everything was kind of encrusted in a layer of cigarette smoke. It was all there, and we, our amazing production designer, Caitlin Ward, definitely like amped that up to 11, but it was there, and it was just amazing. We got that through the neighbor, and then everything else, it was just like knocking on people's doors. Hey, can we use a boat? Hey, can we, use your back 9 to like shoot this wilderness scene? And we need a lake. Where's the lake? And, the community just like rose up and embraced us, and anything we needed, we need a car. It was there. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll have a look at the audience's questions, and we'll see what they have for us. Sean Kelly asks, how did you pull off the red ghostly effects?
It pretty simply, I think. I don't know. I was like, the VFX person did it. I don't know. We shot somebody. We shot a person, and like a model basically, and then used kind of transparencies and colors to achieve that effect. Basically, it was pretty. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like a lot of practical. Like all the lights are. I mean, it's practical effects. It's just. I mean,
mirrors and yeah.
Yeah, it's like shining lights into a camera.
Yeah, all of the kind of orb light shots. I remember it was like we were loading out, and Zion, our cinematographer, and the cameraman were like in a dark room covered in Duvetine, just like playing with like lights, basically. It's like, what are you guys doing? We need to get out of here.
Yeah, so it was a lot of practicals, and then the red kind of Mr. Sanzaru embodiment specifically was we shot like in front of a green screen, just a model walking around, and then matched it up to the shots.
So was it like a full, not necessarily mocap, but like a green suit, or was it a red
It
suit
was
that you did?
no, it wasn't. He wasn't even on set with us. Like we
Mm.
shot that after the fact, and so we shot him. We shot the model in front of a green screen, and then kind of like with different levels of transparencies, like placed him in the in there. So.
Yeah,
But pretty simple effects. Pretty simple.
Yeah. I have to say I really love the very delicate, like you said, the light orbs or the sort of light portals that slowly appear. I think that's a great touch.
Oh yeah, those yeah.
Jimmy says, such a great film. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very mature. He asks, what is your background with film? Did you go to film school? And in general, where are you from? And a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, well, neither of us went to film school. And Alyssa and I met at, we met in New York in college at the New School University, which doesn't have film classes, but it does have it had a couple like experimental video classes. That we both were taking, and like film history, I guess.
Film like appreciation and history, which I think is kind of, if anything, that's more of our background is just films.
I mean, fanatics.
Yeah.
And then, so we met that way, like more than a decade ago, and we started working together in college like immediately because we were surrounded by people who were only interested in like literature and media studies and stuff like that. So we wanted to actually make stuff. So we just started making stuff. And I mean, that's basically our background. And then, we made some short films and music videos and stuff, and then worked our way up to this feature. And was that was the base of the question? I'm from Chicago, Illinois, originally.
Yeah, that was the, let me just double check.
Yeah, I think that was the question.
That was the question. An anonymous attendee asks, the visuals of the movie were very interesting and stylized. Are there any recent films that inspired you visually, or just in general?
I mean, recent, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by recent. I mean, I would say, like you mentioned, like the Carlos Regatas movie, for sure had an effect on the visuals of at least of the spirit. A Pitchapong, We're Asthacools films like Uncle Boomy, who remembers or who can recall past lives, for sure had an effect on me. I mean, neither of those are that recent though. I mean, the last decade, I guess. And then other than that, I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of things have inspired me. I mean, like Poltergeist. I looked at Poltergeist a lot leading up to this shoot, and in post-production we watched Poltergeist a lot. And I mean, I think the special effects in that movie are dope. Like, I think they hold up, and I just love movies like that. So
I mean, speaking of light, right? Like that movie does great things with light. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, sound. I mean, sound is so important, and I think that like what a lot of people, I mean, maybe they don't talk about it as much, I guess, as I would say. Maybe they're not overlooking it, but like, as important as visuals, particularly when it comes to special effects, in my opinion, or just like creating, a mood or creating a being out of nothing. If you're just creating something out of light, it's like, more than half of it is the sound, because like just a light, you can't. It'll only ever look so sentient. It'll only ever look like a light, you know what I mean? But the sound that you add will make it come alive. I mean, it'll make it into a being. It'll make it into a spirit.
Actually, I mean, speaking of sound, the sound in the film is quite remarkable. I'm thinking also of the score. Can you talk a bit about that collaboration with Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs, right?
Correct. Well, Alyssa met Carolyn before we started shooting at like a gallery opening or something, and
an art show,
and Alyssa was like, you gotta meet this woman. So we had a couple meetings before we even shot, which I think actually was it's like invaluable, I guess.
Before we went out to Texas, we kind of already had a conversation going with her. And I think it was, another true collaboration where, you know, it was just kind of this like feedback loop where she would say something and then that would make us think of something on set. And then it was just back and forth. And she really kind of creates the whole like ambiance of the film. And her original song that she did for the film, which was like, we really wanted this kind of like 1960s crooner song, and we were having trouble finding the rights.
To be honest, we had a specific song that we wanted that we actually planned. But Carolyn and I we had already been talking, and so like we knew that we wanted this song from the beginning, so everything was kind of based on it.
And we kind of kept going back to that.
Yeah, we kept going back to it, and we ended up not being able to get the rights, so we ended up having to record our own, which at the end of the day is it's
phenomenal. And I think what's kind of cool is we had this like amazing inspiration with this one song, and then she was able to just like encapsulate all of that energy from the song as well as like everything we created in the film. And then it was just like, it just like went to that next level. And she's amazingly talented. We were so lucky.
We knew from the beginning that we wanted this film to be, the music, it was always going to be super important. I mean, I just felt like it was just, you know, it was going to be such a huge part of it, was getting the music right. So I think we just invested a lot of time, particularly in post-production, to just getting everything right, and scoring it all. Yeah.
Emma asks, when Evelyn is in the kitchen and the power goes out, and the man walks into the kitchen, was it deliberate for the microwave's clock to be on?
I always like these kind of questions. I don't know what you want me to say, Emma.
Busted.
The microwave clock? I thought we got rid of that.
There you go.
No, it's probably not deliberate if it doesn't make sense. I mean, there are a couple things. I mean, I can speak to a couple, like, you know, I don't even want to call them mistakes. A couple idiosyncrasies or whatever that are like
Easter eggs.
Yeah, that are there out of just like necessity for performance, because like at the end of the day, like performance is most important to me, and like because I mean that's what film is about for me, is like being drawn into the story, you know what I mean? But I'm sure that there are other mistakes in there. This was a labor of love, and something that we did we worked really hard, right? I'm just
thinking of all the other things that Emma could have picked up on.
Now your mind is racing, you know, like
I know. You have to give me the time code. And then I can speak directly to it.
All right, Emma, if you remember the time code, just drop it in the.
Reach out to us.
They'll digitally, George Lucas style, digitally alter it for the Blu-ray or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think I beat Jimmy to the punch here with a question. Saying the score is great. Were the pop songs old or just made to sound old? I guess I can supplement the question as well with the closing credits song, which I think was that what you were?
That's the song we're talking about. I mean, it's used multiple. Okay, so the closing credit song is just a Tagalog version of the pop song. So we originally wanted to use this Dusty Springfield song. Well, a Dusty Springfield rendition of this song, Windmills of Your Mind, originally. But then because we couldn't really pull that off, we ended up recording it a bunch of different ways. So it's in the film a few times. There's an instrumental version, the Tagalog version, you know, the English version, and we recorded those. We recorded those in LA. I mean, those are modern songs, and but we got some really great vocalists to do those with us, and we used like an old, I want to say reel to reel, but I think I'm going to be wrong. We used some old machine that made it sound older. that the person who the studio guy would be able to tell you what it was. But
Yeah, I mean, I was convinced it was a genuine.
Oh, good. That was
Yeah,
my biggest.
yeah.
That was my biggest concern with that.
All right, let's see if there's other questions. All right, no more questions, but last call for the questions. If you have questions, please drop them into
Thank you guys for all your
Q&A.
questions. We really appreciate it.
Then I want to ask what's next for both of you, and in terms of this film. If people, of course, there's a repeat screening in a few days, which tell your friends, and so on. But also, if you are out of town or something, how can we catch up to both of you, and how can we catch up to SANZARU in the future?
Well, we're working out our distribution now, so we don't have anything to really announce with that other than it will eventually be available, all over the world. We're just not exactly sure when yet. So, and then Alyssa and I are always working on stuff together, and we have a couple projects in the works right now. We're actually writing something together. Co-writing something that we're working on, and hopefully we can make an announcement about that somewhat soon. We're going to be around.
I would just say follow us on Instagram or Facebook, 1126 Films. We have a robust festival schedule ahead. And since everything's online, you can catch it. It will be probably in your country soon.
Coming to your stream, yeah.
But keep in the loop. We have a lot of good stuff going up, and we're really excited.
Nice. There was one more question.
Yeah.
Oh,
of course.
Emma. I think it was after she was talking.
I'm gonna write it down.
I think it was after she was talking the long talk with her sister. Unfortunately, I cannot go back and watch it. Wondering if it was an Easter egg of some kind.
Yeah.
It's when they go near the sink. I loved the ambiance, by the way. I didn't mean it as a offensive comment.
No, I'm not offended at all. I mean, I think, I think it wasn't necessarily an intentional Easter egg, although the electricity is kind of constantly going on and off throughout the movie. So sometimes it was it was hard to keep track of when it was supposed to be on and when it was supposed to be off.
Yeah, I mean, breakers break in different
totally
places,
there's a reason.
The house we've established has a lot of weird things going on, so we might not have intentionally put it there, but the spirits of SANZARU they did.
They left it there. Thank you all for watching and your thoughtful questions. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you Alyssa and Zai for being with us today. Thank you. Take care.
Great. Thank you so much, Ariel.
All right.